Yeah, it is. Just hold it. Hold it high though. Is that submitted? Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Grenay, and I'm excited to be here tonight. I am the broker owner of DRG. We are a residential real estate company that focuses in the city of Minneapolis. I'm excited to have you all here tonight and join us. I promise that you're going to get some great information about starting your buying journey. I'll be co-hosting this seminar tonight with a lender friend of mine that I've been working with for about 15 years. He's a heck of a guy. Once you get to know him, you'll actually find out that he is super funny. He's not just a boring banker. So I'd like to welcome my co-host tonight, JJ Ellingson with Leader One Financial.
Well, I cannot disclose how much I paid you to say that. That will be confidential. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Joe. And thanks for everyone for attending. A little bit about me is I'm a loan officer with Leader One Financial. All we do is mortgages. So if you're not fortunate enough to have cash to buy your house, you'll come to somebody like me to help you line up your financing. I've been doing this about 15 years. I've had the opportunity to work with many different buyers, investment properties, second homes, first-time home buyers. And what I know is everybody is unique. Every situation is different. And my focus is to simplify the process, understand your goals, and help you navigate your first time buying a home. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, I'd love to have you. Love to have you part of these events. One of the things before we start tonight is, so far we have 5 guests watching live. Please submit your first name. And also through this seminar, we're going to have a couple quiz questions in the middle of the presentation. So again, submit your name. We welcome you all to this seminar, and we want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions throughout this seminar, feel free. In the bottom of the screen, you're going to have a little comment section. So put your question in there, and if it's on the real estate side, I'll pause and we will post that and answer that question for you. And if it's on the lender side, we'll have JJ pause and he can answer that as well. So here's some things that we're going to talk about tonight. Where do you start? When you're going on that journey to buy your first home, where do you start? Why consider buying a home right now in today's market? Also, talk about the myths of down payments. That's a big topic that new buyers really struggle with. We're going to talk about credit and credit scores. What does that really mean? We're going to talk about the real estate market. We're also going to talk about the financial market, talk about the differences there. And then something exciting that I love that JJ and his company does a great job doing is talk about a rent versus own analysis. That takes a simple process when you're renting a home and you're thinking about buying, and it lays out really the pros and cons and why it's so beneficial to buy a home. So JJ, I'm going to throw this over to you. So you've been doing this for about 15 years. Mm-hmm. Why is now such a great time to buy your first home?
That's a good question. And despite what you might see out there, I believe it is a good time to buy, and some of the stats out there show that. I know you mentioned questions are okay. What about, real quick, heckling? Are they allowed to heckle?
Your side, the lender side,
Okay,
for
okay.
sure.
All right. So yeah, I believe now is a great time to buy. And one of the big reasons, the number one reason out there, is interest rates. They are extremely low right now. As you can see here, this is the last 4 years. January 2016, we're almost at 4%. And then we kind of peaked in 2019. It doesn't label that, but close to 5%. Now we're down to below 3% in most cases, and that's historically great. So let's kind of look at here where that is historically, besides me just telling you that. So here we pulled up, I was curious myself how good they've been. I've been doing this for 15 years. And as you can see, rates are super low right now, but that's not always been the case. In the early 90s, I mean, we were close to 10%, and we've continued to go down. The thing that I want to remind you of, it's great now, they're low now, but they change daily, and nothing's guaranteed. We can deal with the now and how low they are. Let's go. How this impacts you here. Besides me telling you it's a good time to buy, I want to share with you why it's a good time to buy and why interest rates are helping you. So the one thing I pulled up here is your purchasing power. There's really three things that impact your buying power. One are home prices. And despite COVID-19, nationally, we've seen a 5.7% increase throughout this year, which actually decreases your buying power by about $21,000 or $21,300. Now, interest rates, like I mentioned, they're extremely low. They've gone down this year since the beginning by a little over 0.85%. How does that impact you? On average, that increases your buying power by over $40,000. So it's a significant impact. The other thing that can impact your buying power are wages. You get raises every year, on average 1.5%. That equates to roughly $5,600 on average. So long story longer, what this means is with rates going down and prices going up, you've actually increased your buying power by over $24,000 at $24,500. So rates, they do matter.
Yeah, so JJ, let me jump in on this. So one of the things that I talk to my clients about on a daily, on a weekly basis, and actually go pull that chart back up. So in essence, buying power, let's say somebody wanted to buy a home in 2019 and the interest rate was a little bit higher. The reality of it is, if they wanted to buy that same home in 2020, that same home is going to be a lot cheaper, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, on the other hand, is if they can afford that payment in 2020, because interest rates are so low right now, they can go out and buy more of a home. So maybe they can go from a 1-bedroom to a 1-bedroom den, or they can go from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, or they can get that third stall garage, or they can go from 300 to 350. It's a big piece of buying a home is what interest rates you qualify for. So the purchasing power right now, the affordability is at an all-time high. So it's an important topic, and it's an important topic that the people that are listening tonight to really understand. And at the end of this seminar tonight, we're going to encourage you to take that first step in buying a home. And the first step is really just picking up the phone, sending us an email, and let's have a 10-15 minute conversation. So that won't be the first time you'll hear me talk about that tonight, because that's really the first step in buying your home. So let's shift over to another topic that I love to talk about, because everybody, when you start buying your first home, everybody becomes a real estate expert, and they really get bogged down on the word credit. So I remember, when I was buying my first home and I was coming out of college, and I really feared that I didn't have great credit, because I was the guy that was signing up for credit cards to get a free t-shirt and just really didn't understand what credit was all about. They didn't talk about it in high school. They didn't talk about it in college. So you kind of learn the hard way. So what we want to do tonight is bunk some of the myths in regards to credit. So I want to throw this over to you, JJ. Let's talk a little bit more about the credit piece. But do we have a quiz question? All right. This is our first quiz question we're going to throw out there to you tonight. So JJ, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, let's throw the quiz, and we'll come back to credit, but let's quick jump back to down payment. And we want to throw out a quiz there for anybody willing to answer. It's simple. True or false? 20% down is the minimum required down payment. And if you're willing to answer and you get this right, my friend Joe Grenay is going to pay your down payment. Okay, that's not true.
Everything in writing. But yeah, let's give people about 15 seconds to answer this question. Just simple, true or false. Is 20% down the minimum requirement in today's lending world to buy a home? All right, see, we've got 6 people on. Let's see some T's and F's.
I know, we're putting the pressure on. So,
all right, we got one from Wendy. She says false. All right, do we have anyone else here? Thanks, Wendy.
Yep, Wendy, we appreciate it. The down payment's on Joe.
Wendy, where are you from? All right, 5 more seconds. Looks like Wendy's the only one that's interested in playing our fun game tonight. Wendy, JJ, go ahead.
Let's just talk about that real quick. And I asked that question because the reality is 60% of non-homeowners, or folks that most people that are renting, believe that 20% down is required. It's not, it's false. Wendy is spot on. In today's market, you actually can do as little as 3% down is the most common. And in some cases, if you are eligible for down payment assistance, you can buy with as little as $1,000 down. So this is important for me to share with you because I don't want you to stop or not start the process because you believe you don't meet that down payment requirement.
Okay. Let's shift back to credit, JJ.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to miss that topic. So.
Yeah, and that's another important piece, and kind of along that myths part is the reality is you don't need perfect credit to buy in today's market. And another stat, I love finding these stats, but over 48% of renters think you have to have a 700 or higher credit score. And what is credit? Credit is simply a measure that we use to determine the likelihood that you'll pay back your mortgage. 700 or higher is very good, but the reality is, as this chart shows you, there are plenty of people that are able to finance with less than 20% down. Almost 26.5% are below that 700 credit score. So the days of these roadblocks in credit, they're not there. There's more flexibility now, and I just love diving into that process. When we meet and go one-on-one and look at your credit report, more often than not, it's better than what most people expect it to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other piece of the credit here is when we're going through the pre-approval process, we're going to look at that credit, and there's 2 things that I'm going to come back with, like this slide shows you. I'm either going to say, yes, yeah, your credit's good enough and we can buy now, or it's not yet. And when it's not yet, that comes with a plan. So if you have a reservation thinking I might not be able to buy now because maybe I missed a credit card payment, whatever the case may be, I'll look at that. I'll guide you on what do you got to do to get where you need to be. So it's either yes or not yet with a plan.
I love it. That's a great point, is the yes or not yet, because so many people are fearful to apply for a mortgage because they think they're going to get a no, and it's always a yes or a not yet. So I get that. Let's shift over to the financial market, JJ.
Yeah.
With social media now and in the 24/7, 365 news, there's just so much information out there right now, and so-called influencers in today's market about buying homes, not buying homes. Talk a little bit just from your professional experience about the financial market, lending world today.
Yeah, there's a lot of myths out there, and there's a lot of headlines, and there's blanket statements made that really aren't based on what the facts are. We've had some key people, from Susie Orman to Gary Vee that have stated you shouldn't buy now. And with COVID-19, I'm sure people have some reservations with, job uncertainty or thinking that we're going into recession and the housing market's going to fall. So I did some research on this, and I was surprised to learn that over the 5 last recessions, we've had one huge hit to the mortgage or the housing market. And that was back in 2008. We all remember that. But outside of that, in the last 5 recessions, 3 of them, we've actually seen positive home prices appreciation. And we're seeing that right now too. So recessions don't always lead to the market falling.
Yeah, that's a great topic, JJ, because a lot of people think right now in COVID, sellers are desperate and sellers are taking 50% off their home, and it's just not the reality. There are certain markets that are hot and really outperforming other markets. There's obviously other markets that are a little down right now because of the COVID issue. But the reality out there is it doesn't matter if you want to buy a home now. It doesn't matter if you want to buy a home in 6 months or 2 years from now. It's all about just starting the process and just understanding where you're at. So again, we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end of the seminar, but starting the process is about setting up a 5 to 15 minute call, and let's just walk through a couple high level questions, because really buying a home is very personal, and if we customize it to you. We customize it to your needs, your goals, your wants, your timelines, and then from there we create a plan. So anything to add there, JJ?
Yeah, I do want to touch on, kind of where we think home prices are going.
Perfect.
Because what ultimately we want to do is, I don't like to see somebody remove themselves from buying based on the myths, thinking that the market's falling, thinking that their credit isn't good enough, or things like that. Home prices, what we expect here over the next couple of years from the leading indicators, and they're forecasting out a couple of years, we see that home prices are going to continue to appreciate. So we have low rates. We have home values continue to appreciate. So these are some of the reasons why I really believe, now is the time to explore buying.
JJ, what have you seen on average, just in the Twin Cities market, a baseline appreciation year over year? What's that been for the last few years?
Boy, we've seen, Joe, as you know, since 2011, we've seen the market continue to increase. And in most cases, because I see appraisals, and we're seeing about 6% year over year of appreciation. We're showing you national numbers there. We want to be conservative on this, but we're continuing to see that. And I know you are too, Joe.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Let's shift. We talked earlier about things that we wanted to talk about today, and the thing that I was excited about more so because I've just seen you walk through renters this process. The rent versus own analysis, I've seen it help so many first-time buyers really just understand the power of buying a home. JJ, can you walk through the viewers tonight on what that looks like, just high level? Because I don't want to go too far in the details, because again, this is this form, I've seen it real time. There's a lot of numbers and it can get very head over all of our heads. But JJ, you do a great job customizing it to the renter that's thinking about buying in the one-on-one session. Can you talk about that briefly, what that means and what that looks like?
Yeah, so in our initial consultation, we are going to go in depth on a rent versus own. I want to show you what it looks like now and 5 or 10 years from now what it looks like renting versus buying. And it's a very complex form, multiple pages to it. I'm not going to bore you with that stuff now, but I just want to touch on the highlights here. So we put together a scenario where the most common down payments, 20% down, 3% down, and then down payment assistance with $1,000 down. And we assume somebody renting at $2,000 a month. So we'll walk through those payments and all that stuff in our initial meeting. But what I want to look at here is, what does this look like down the road 10 years from now? We didn't talk about that slide before, but a couple of slides ago, it mentioned that the Federal Reserve said that the average homeowner's net worth is 44 times greater than a renter's. Well, how do we get there? This is one of the ways I show you with a rent versus own. So in this scenario, 10 years from now, for the person that puts 20% down, they're at almost 184,000 in equity, all the way down to 136. And this is based on a minimal 2% down appreciation. I can't guarantee that, but that zero in the rental column, after 10 years of renting, we know for sure that's zero. So again, we will do this. This is free. We walk through this together based on your situation, just to kind of help give you that information so you can make the best buying decision for you.
Yeah, JJ, let's go back to this slide. I think this is an important slide, and it's very simple. So if you're talking to a renter and you find out that their purchasing power is around $300,000 a year, and they put 3% down, so it's $9,000 down.
Yep.
And they're going to mortgage $291. Their interest rate is unbelievable right now at 2.875. That just blows me away. Is that their all-in payment around $2,000?
So that $2,000 is the all-in, and this stuff will break down, but that's going to include everything: association dues if you're in a condo or townhouse, taxes, insurance, all that stuff. I walk you through that line by line, so when you do decide to move forward, you know exactly what to expect. So
yeah, I think that's an important piece there to have the viewers understand, is that $2,074.64 payment is your mortgage payment. It's your real estate taxes. It's your insurance. And because you're only putting 3% down, there's some mortgage insurance there. But all in all, what JJ is going to show you in the one-on-one consult over the phone, via Zoom, or face-to-face is what your all-in payment is. So you can really compare, here's what I'm paying in rent, here's what I'm paying in home ownership. It really comes down to a down payment. And one of the things that I talk to renters about all the time is, if you've got a great job and you're going to live in the same area for 2.5, maybe 3 years, I strongly consider you looking at buying. Doesn't mean you have to. There's nothing wrong with renting a home, but depending on where you want to go long-term financially, the game of homeownership creates lifelong family wealth. It's been proven. So a lot of times I always talk about, you're always paying a mortgage if you're a renter. It's just not yours. So the mindset is already there. It's really about, does it make sense and fit in that box of my personal short and long-term goals? And that's why we're here. Myself from the real estate side, myself, my team are happy to have a one-on-one consult with you. And then JJ as well too. Just a 15-minute call really starts the process. All right. So now JJ, once renters are approved, what does
that's when you get to take over.
I know, but I want to ask you this question first, and you can flip it back to me. When you work with renters and they're thinking about buying a home, you've got them approved, what are some of the questions that they have for you about the real estate market? So you're kind of setting them up for success when you hand them over to myself or an agent on my team.
Well, I mean, I think most people want to figure out, is, like we've talked about, is now the time to buy? And we believe it is. And then they want to know what their options are. And they want to know, from the lender side, what they're seeing in the market. And you and I have both seen, Joe, it's despite COVID-19 impacting a lot of people, it's been very busy, very competitive. There's a lot of people still buying right now.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now you can throw it back over to me, JJ.
Yeah, so let's just take a quick step back, though. We've talked about the credit, the rates, and all that stuff. But one part of this, Joe started out with, where do you start? And with me, that's going to be our pre-approval process. So you'll ultimately end up contacting me. It's just a simple phone call to start. You'll do an application when you're ready, and then we'll do a Zoom or face-to-face meeting. It's literally a half an hour to an hour invested. That's really going to line you up and set you up. So once we've done that and you feel good, you're comfortable, and you're ready to go, then the fun part of working with Joe and kind of dialing in that house search, he steps in. So I'll let you take it from here, Joe.
Yeah, you always say we have the fun part, but you've got a fun but very important, crucial process. So yeah, the real estate market, there's always ups and downs, but that's why, again, we pride ourselves on, when we do that initial consult, we make it about you. What's important to you? Again, it's your needs, your goals, your wants, your timelines. And then from there, we build a game plan. And I'll say this again, this is about you. Whether you want to buy a home now, over the next 3 to 6 months, great. If you want to buy a home next year, great. If you want to buy a home in 5 years, great. We'll help you build that plan. So one of the nice things about that I have the privilege to do is, myself, my team, we get to drive you around, the great city of Minneapolis. And we pride ourselves on really talking about what that lifestyle is. What's important to you when you wake up on a Wednesday morning, or you come home after a hard day's work during the week, or you wake up on a Saturday morning. What do you want to do? You want to spend more time walking to cafes, shops, and retail, being more in an urban setting, or do you want to walk along the river or lakes, or walk the dog in a residential neighborhood? What's important to you there? And then we start working backwards to look at the housing stock. So that's one of the fun things that we get to do from a real estate side. Before we get you in the car, here's our buying process. We do a meeting, and nowadays we've been doing a lot of meetings via Zoom, and we just talk about what your desires are. We update you on the market, talk about your timelines, and then if you haven't got pre-approved yet, we talk about what that process looks like to, again, make a game plan. Then we start a custom search for you. Now, everybody at their fingertips has access to homes now. That's not our highest and best use, but we can actually make it easier and streamlined for you, because we have access to the MLS that you don't have access to as a customer. So we'll create a custom search for you. Once you're pre-approved, and once you decide to work with us, then we take you out and start doing showings and touring different neighborhoods and getting through the house. Once we tour houses, whether it's one weekend or it takes 6 months, once we find that right home for you, that's when we go back to the office and we start doing research on that home based on your goals, your financial situation, how we want to structure that offer. We, as the agent, will present to you, the client, here's where we think professionally you should start the offer process. Now, since you're the client, you're the boss, if you like that offer or like how we structured it, then we submit it. Or if you want to change a few things, we can easily do that as well too. When we meet initially, we'll walk through this a little bit more in detail. Tonight, I just want to give you high level. When we structure that offer, we'll make it contingent upon home inspections. If you're buying in a condo or a loft or a townhome, you'll have the 10-day right of rescission to review all the rules and all the financials and all the things that you need to understand about living in that community. Once the offer is accepted by the buyer and seller, then we hand over the purchase agreement over to JJ and his team, and that's when they start doing the underwriting. And that's where all the information that you submitted in that loan application, now you have to provide documentation. So W-2s, some tax returns, some pay statements, pay statements from your employer. Those are types of things that you have to give to JJ and his team. Step 6 is about doing a final walkthrough before you close on that home, just to make sure if there were any inspection items that maybe were fixed, or we have some personal property that you purchased with the home, we want to make sure they're there. And if there were things broken, that they're fixed before we go to the closing. That's the final step. The day comes where you go to a title company. Now in the days of COVID, your realtor, myself, and JJ, we haven't been attending closings, but we work with some great title closers that'll help you walk through the process on the day of closing and signing all the official documents. You get your keys, and then you move in. So it is an exciting day. We love helping first-time home buyers. It's something that I truly, after 15 years, love doing the most. I know JJ does as well. JJ, talk about some of your first-time home buying experiences.
So I don't think we didn't touch on, I own as well. I know you own, Joe. So we're not talking about now is the time you should buy type stuff, not being owners ourselves. The biggest thing, I was a first-time home buyer as well, and I was intimidated. This is before I was a loan officer. I was scared. I was worried. I didn't know really where to start. The biggest thing is I highly recommend just starting the process. Just getting that mortgage financial check, see where you stand, see what your options are. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not going to commit you to anything. Because I look at this as a great time right now, and we're probably going to have a couple of conversations here, one or two outcomes. Either 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we're going to be celebrating your ownership, home ownership for 5 or 10 years. Or we're going to be talking again about why didn't I start that process then? What was holding me back? So I just encourage you to take that step is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I concur on that as well too. Really, from my perspective, most people want to buy a home. It's just really a question when. And the ones that take that first step and just start, and again, I want to reiterate, starting is about picking up the phone, calling JJ or calling myself. And the nice thing is we're going to make it super simple. So for everybody that RSVP'd tonight, you're going to get an email from our marketing team. And if you want to talk to the real estate side first, we'd love to talk to you. If you want to talk to the lending side and talk about the mortgage side first, JJ would love to talk to you. So again, I want to close tonight with just saying thank you so much for attending tonight. And if you are interested in buying your first home, just take that first step. JJ, do you have any closing words for tonight?
No, I like you. I appreciate everybody attending, taking that first step. Now the next step is just to contact us.
Great. Look out for that email. You'll probably get that within the next 12 hours. And I am excited to chat with a few of you in the next few days or the next week. So thank you again for attending tonight's seminar.